Hello and welcome back again. In Module C of States of Consciousness, we're going to start talking about meditation and hypnosis. So meditation is something that has been practiced by numerous people who want to achieve relaxation, achieve a higher sense of attachment to another person, to a religious value, and so forth. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a couple of seconds when we get to the next slide, but just sort of to give you an overview of what meditation is. The other thing I want to do in this particular unit is I'm going to be posting a video that you can do a self-guided meditation. And again, this is completely voluntary. It's if you want to do it, that's great. If you don't, that's fine. It's just something for you to think about how that might help you to get into a more focused state for studying, for relaxation, and so forth. The second part of this module is hypnosis. And hypnosis also falls into the same category of expanded consciousness or ability to alter our consciousness through focused attention. The biggest difference, of course, is that through hypnosis, you are having someone else help you to alter your conscious. Meditation is something you can do by yourself. You don't necessarily need to have anybody else in the room. You don't need to do it as part of a group. You can do it on your own. But with hypnosis, you need to have someone who guides you, who hypnotizes you through words, suggestions, etc. So we're going to look at those two different areas, how they're related, how they're different, and we're going to move into an understanding of hypnosis for both medical as well as entertainment value. So let's look at meditation. Meditation is used to attain a focused attention. It's a very cognitively challenging activity, as we'll see in a little bit later when we talk about the study that's being done with monks. But basically, what happens is as you get into this meditative state, you become more relaxed and more able to block out external distractions, things that are happening in your environment. And some people do it for religious purposes. For instance, there's certain religious groups that may use a controlled substance or an illegal substance to gain this sense of heightened understanding of their religious belief system, of their closeness to their deity, of their sense of connectedness within their community. Other people use it to achieve this state of relaxation. So they're trying to shut out the rest of the world, not worry so much about their problems, or focus enough on themselves, what they're feeling, so that they can gain the energy to think about how to solve a problem they may have in their life. So two things that have to happen in meditation. First of all, you have to be able to block out the other distractions. You have to not be aware of the fact that you're wearing, your friend next door has better looking clothes than you do, or that you have more expensive running shoes than the next person. Those kinds of things are not important. What's important is being able to block out any of those competing, distracting features and focus on your breathing, focusing on getting yourself into this calming, controlled breathing. So a person who's in a meditative state will more likely have a more deliberate, slow and methodical breathing, so that they can get themselves to that point of calm and quiet and get the full benefits of it. So what are some of the benefits? Well, aside from getting that state of relaxation, there's also the benefit of lowering your blood pressure. It's often given to people who are experiencing high blood pressure to try and, techniques are taught to them so that they can try and minimize their blood pressure and get themselves into a more relaxed state. It's also been successful for people who have suffered from severe depression, in that it can help them to alter their brain activity and structure. And I want to talk a little bit more about that, first of all, with a study that has been done. And I'm going to post a video about this study as well. But basically what was done is they looked at monks who, as you know, meditate a lot as part of their religious belief systems. And what they found by putting them in an MRI where they could get a picture of what was going on in their brain, they found that they had altered brain structures. They seemed to devote more attention, more focus, if you will, to the parts of the brain that is able to pay attention to their surroundings, their environment. So they're highly attuned to what's going on. There's also an increase of blood flow in the brain, which also allows for a person to become a better problem solver or better at resolving issues as they become available because of this extra brain blood that's being flowing to the brain. It's a really interesting study. I would encourage you to watch the video that I posted to get a little bit more about this study. And it's still in its early stages. There is a report coming out about this particular study in the near future. So what is hypnosis? Hypnosis is also a focused attention technique, or a technique that we can use to focus our attention, But the difference is that a person who can allow themselves to be hypnotized, or who can go into a hypnotic state, has to have this sense of heightened suggestibility. In other words, they have to want to be hypnotized. They have to want to believe that this person doing the hypnosis is able to hypnotize them. And at this point, I want you to think about the two different types of hypnotism discussed in your textbook, as well as on my slideshow. That one is for purely entertainment purposes, and one is for medical purposes. So I'm not going to talk too much about that now. I'll talk more about it in the next slide. But at this point, I just want you to understand that a person under hypnosis has a diminished sense of the environment that's around them. They are not able to respond because they have gotten into this trance-like state as a result of the person doing the hypnotizing. So an individual uses a watch or an object of some sort to get that person, to get you, or to get me, if you will, into the hypnotic state. And as a result, you are not able to respond to your external environment. I want to talk a little bit in the next slide about some of the myths surrounding hypnosis. Let's talk about some common myths and the actual facts around hypnosis. Contrary to popular belief, a person who is under hypnosis will not do something that is against their moral values. They are not going to start stripping down, so to speak, on a stage if that's something that they would never do at any point, except for in the privacy of their home, so to speak. They will not do something like, I don't know, strangling their cousin, if that's not something that they would normally do. So we have to, that's a big issue that you should be thinking about. We're not, a person under hypnosis might say, oh, I would never have done that if I wasn't under hypnosis. They would. They may not be consciously aware that they would, but they would. Because they are aware of their environment. They still know that what's going on. They may not have as high a level of consciousness about it, but they do have an understanding of their environment. and they can't do things like fly or lift 500 pounds or do something that would be challenging for them under normal circumstances. Some people think that psychologists use hypnosis as a way to get people to give accurate memories. But the reality is that memory is affected by so many things. It's affected by how well we attune to it in the first place. It's affected by suggestions from other people. It's affected by so many different things that we'll talk about that a little bit later in the semester when we talk about the whole issue of memory. So a person who is giving a memory while under hypnosis may be giving something that they weren't consciously aware of, but that doesn't mean that it's more accurate than other memories that they may have. They're not going to reveal embarrassing secrets. Think of a person who is under hypnosis, if you will, as someone who is acting out a role. They're listening to the hypnotist, they're listening to what he or she has to say, and they're filtering whether they want to act out that role or not. Sometimes they might not want to, and so they would stop, and sometimes they would. It really depends on how much entertainment value, how much suggestibility, how much they feel that they want to live this fantasy while they're on the stage. They don't make up events that have happened in the past. They can't change them or alter them. They have to live them the way they actually were lived. And most of the responses are just involuntary things that they wouldn't do otherwise. Let's move on to talk about hypnosis for medical purposes. Now, this may sound very strange that some people have had surgery. You may have heard this before, that some people have had surgery while under hypnosis. Not advisable. It might help you control the pain after surgery, but certainly not something that you could do to get through the surgery. Now, with an exception, sometimes dental surgery, but dental surgery often is, you only put freezing in your mouth. For a person who is extremely petrified of dental surgery, they would still get this freezing in their mouth. The hypnosis might help them to calm down enough to be able to deal with the dentist poking around in their mouth. It's also used in psychological purposes, and this is what I mean by accepted by the APA. The APA is the American Psychiatric Association. There's a Canadian equivalent as well. And what they do is they regulate the use of medical interventions, counseling interventions, techniques, therapy techniques that they feel are appropriate and useful. But again, it has to be by a trained professional who has extensive knowledge in how to use hypnosis for medical purposes in order for it to be useful and helpful. Has anybody known somebody who's tried to get hypnosis to quit smoking or lose weight? Now, both my mother and my brother went to a hypnotist to try to quit smoking. Total disaster. Neither one of them were really ready to quit smoking, so whatever the hypnotist did or didn't do wasn't going to be working because they weren't at that point in their life where they were ready to quit. Now, my brother has since quit smoking, but basically because he moved in with his daughter, and his daughter would not allow him to smoke in the house, and so he went outside to smoke, and he didn't like being outside in the cold smoking. And he also has a grandchild now, and so he feels that, you know, that his grandchild needs grandpa to be around. So good for him, he quit, but not as a result of hypnosis, which was done many years earlier. Okay, so that's the end of this unit. In the next module, we're going to talk about altering our conscious through taking various substances, both legal and illegal. things such as alcohol, which is legal, and LSD, psychoactive drugs that are not legal. So stay tuned. We'll be heading to that module soon.